Hello and welcome to the Satluj Podcast. The Jeffrey Epstein scandal has been in the headlines for several years now, but what is less known about his activities as a powerful billionaire, and has perhaps been deliberately obscured by his widely publicised sex crimes, is his facilitation of global right-wing extremist geopolitics, far away from accountability or democratic control. Evidence is now emerging of his role as an important bridge and facilitator between Israeli Zionists, Indian Hindutva forces and even extremist elements of the US MAGA movement. Just what is this evidence? How significant is it? And what does it mean for example, the Sikh community? Well, to answer these questions, I'm joined today by a regular guest, Dr. Gurinder Singh Grewal, MD. Dr. Grewal, welcome. Thank you for joining us once again today.
Good morning, Angus. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Recently, the emails of Jeffrey Epstein has been disclosed, and some information is leaking, so that he had contact with Hardeep Puri, who was India's diplomat, and now he's India's minister in the Modi government, Anil Ambani, who's an Indian oligarch, and there's a mention of Mr. Modi and many other names. So there's a lot of talk going on the YouTube about sex scandals, but I think when you dig deeper into it, in this nexus, there's a more than sex scandal. We don't know anything about that has anything to do with the sex scandal, but a lot of political maneuvering and nexusing. So what we like to talk is Epstein-Israel-India nexus, global intelligence network, and the rise of transnational Hindutva. The decades-long career of Jeffrey Epstein has been often framed narrowly around his horrific sexual crimes. Yet recently leaked documents, investigative reports, and intelligence-linked correspondence point towards a larger and more complex phenomenon, the merging of US far-right strategists, Israeli intelligence-linked operatives, and India's rising Hindu nationalist establishment. In this discussion, we will avoid sensational claims. What follows is a factual reconstruction of what the documents actually show us and how they illuminate the transnational nature of Hindutva power, the influence of Israeli security apparatus in Indian politics, and the global network that quietly shape geopolitical decisions in Washington, Tel Aviv, and New York. This picture emerges is not a conspiracy thriller. We're not talking about conspiracy thriller, but something more concerning a web of private power brokers, political fixers, intelligence-linked intermediaries, and ideological actors constructing new authoritarian alliance outside democratic oversight. So Epstein beyond the scandal, the strategic and intelligence dimension. Much of the world knows Epstein only as a sex trafficker, but leaked material, hacked Israeli emails, and House Oversight Committee documents and investigative reporting revealed that Epstein also served as a shadow diplomat and intelligent adjacent fixer. Epstein's documented ties to Israeli intelligence figures. Yoni Koren, a senior Israeli intelligence officer and advisor to Defense Minister Mr. Barak, who later became Prime Minister, stayed at Epstein's Manhattan residence for weeks at a time between 2013 and 2015. Emails show Epstein acting as a financial conduit, including facilitating a transfer from Barak to Koren's US bank accounts. Investigations show Epstein helped broker an Israeli-Mongolia security agreement, a covert Israeli-Russia-backed channel during the Syrian conflict, and other operations advancing Israeli strategic interests. These facts do not prove Epstein was a formal Mossad officer, but they establish him as an informal asset fixer deeply embedded within Israeli intelligence sector. Epstein as international political operator. Beyond Israel, Epstein cultivated elite networks in US right-wing circles, like Steve Bannon is one of them, Alan Dershowitz, Larry Summers, who recently resigned from the Harvard University, Middle Eastern monarchs, Russian financial political networks, and select European and Asian business elites. His value was not only access. Epstein facilitated back channels, off-record diplomacy, political connection, and discreet strategic advice. In short, the Epstein was a node. Node is a point where many lines intersect. So he was a node in a global network where intelligence, wealth, political ideology, and private interest converge. For example, Steve Bannon, the bridge between MAGA, Israel, and Modi. Epstein was the fixer. Steve Bannon was the ideological architect. Bannon's vision, a global nationalist movement. Bannon's political worldview is explicit. He wanted to strengthen a US-India-Israel axis against China and Israel, to support civilizational nationalism, boost hard right government around the world. For Bannon, India under Modi was a model ethno-nationalist state combining Hindu majoritarianism, aligning with Israel, repression of minorities, particularly Muslims, and neoliberal adjacent corporate powers, Ambani, Adani, etc. So Epstein's close relationship with Bannon, leaked House oversight text reveals Epstein coached Bannon on media messaging. They met repeatedly in 2018 and 2019. Epstein referred to their collaboration as an operation. They discussed foreign policy, China strategy, Israel's regional interests. Thus, the Epstein served as a political strategic advisor, giving him influence over a key figure shaping US and global right-wing networks. The next comes the Modi, Puri, Ambani, India entry into Epstein's web. India appears in Epstein document not through direct association with the crime, but through geopolitical and strategic channels. Narendra Modi never met him. No public evidence indicates Modi met Epstein or communicated with him directly. What the documents show, Epstein pushed Bannon to meet Modi in 2019. He wrote to Bannon that Modi's focus is stopping China. Epstein framed India's role as central to an Israeli-linked strategy. Whether Epstein truly had access to Modi is unknown. What is clear, he saw Modi and Bannon as a strategical aligned inside a US-India-Israeli nexus. So even though Israelis and Indians can meet outside, but Epstein was a link to link the power people in Washington. Hardeep Puri, the diplomatic interface. Hardeep Puri was India's diplomat in the UN. He was also, I think, the president's Security Council for some years. He met multiple times in 2014 with Epstein. This was when Puri was with the International Peace Institute, not yet a minister. Some meetings involved Tere Rod Larson, an IPI figure, later criticized for his own Epstein connections. We do not know the substance of these meetings. We can presume probably was not anything to do with sex crime because most of those happen in Epstein's island. But they indicate Epstein actively sought access to India's diplomatic elite. Puri was seen as an important node again as a point of intersection. in New York international diplomatic community. So next, Anil Ambani. Anil Ambani, a businessman with the Israel Security Channel. His defense company had a lot of business with Israelis defense company called Rafael in the nature of billions of dollars. The clearest India-linked correspondence involved Anil Ambani, the email. He sent email to Epstein about Modi's potential US visit, and Epstein replied, India-Israel ki not for email. He told him this is not to be put on email, too sensitive subject. This aligns strongly with Ambani defense joint ventures with Israel. Israel's increasing military exposure to India, Modi's pro-Israel policy shift, and back-channel discussions about US India-Israel alignment. Again, nothing here ties Ambani to Epstein sex crimes, but geopolitical and defense alignment is unmistakable. This nexus, what evidence shows, bringing threads together. Epstein's role, an informal intelligence broker, a private diplomat for Israel-linked interests, a power node facilitating meetings, influence, and strategy. The US-Israel-India axis, Bannon's ideological project, Israel's strategic expansion into India's defense sector, Modi's alignment with US and Israel right-wing circles. The Epstein's contact with India, Puri diplomatic access, Ambani defense and business interests, Modi's symbolic and political value for US-Israeli strategy. So this is the nexus. What the nexus is not, no evidence that Modi, Puri, or Ambani were connected to Epstein's sex trafficking crimes. No proof they knew Epstein intelligence connections. No basis for criminal accusation. So I am not trying to say they were involved in any of those crimes which Epstein was jailed for and died in a jail. So we are focusing on what the political thing was going on behind the scene. What this nexus represents, a troubling example of how global nationalist movement coordinate outside democratic oversight. The privatization of diplomacy, where billionaires, fixers, and intelligence-linked operators shape geopolitics. A transnational Hindutva Zionist MAGA network, linked by ideology, strategy, and background influences. Why this matter for the Sikh minorities and democracy? Why are we talking about? Why is this important to Sikhs and Sikh politics? India's foreign policy shift under Modi. Under BJP rule, India has moved sharply toward Israel's surveillance and counterinsurgency model, increased purchase of Israeli weapons, militarized nationalism, erosion of civil liberty. The shift is not an accident. It aligns with the network described previously we did. Hindutva global allies. Hindutva ideology today, supported and amplified by US far-right movements, Zionist hardliners, corporate oligarchs like Ambani and Adani, authoritarian strategists like Bannon. How this impact the Sikhs and the Punjab issues. The Sikh community has long been targeted by surveillance, propaganda, disinformation, political pressure from the Indian side. The India-Israel security nexus has contributed to militarization in Punjab and Kashmir through spyware, counter-protest technologies, intelligence training, crowd control equipment. Understanding the Epstein-Israel-India nexus helps explain why dissent is criminalized, why diaspora activism alarms the Indian state, why global right-wing network defend Hindutva violence. So in conclusion, a new architecture of transnational power. The Epstein-Bannon Israel-India network is not a scandal, it is a structure. Intelligence-linked intermediaries, right-wing ideologies, billionaire business elites, and nationalist governments work together outside democratic systems to consolidate power. For minorities like Sikhs, Muslims, Dalits, Kashmiris, this new architecture presents unprecedented challenges, but exposing these networks is the first step in resisting them. So this is about how Epstein and his connections were working with the Hindutva ideology, Modi, Bannon, Puri, and Anil Ambani.
So, Dr. Grail, that was a very interesting presentation, and it comes almost as a surprise, I'm sure, to many in our audience, because, of course, we do know the strong ties between India and Russia that run very historic and very deep. But, of course, as this evidence is sort of emerging via this facilitator of Epstein, is that he was assisting this relationship between Israel and India, which again does draw out sort of various concerns, particularly with Israeli capabilities in their ability, certainly on the high technology scene, to surveil a population. We do know they are responsible for all sorts of really cutting edge pieces of technology to spy on the, let's call them the enemies of Israel. But of course they are passing such technology onto India to allow India to do the same sort of thing through its own transnational repression. Maybe we could evolve this discussion then, Dr. Grail, into examining this relationship between Israel and India itself. Could you then talk us through a little bit more about this relationship, about how you see the parallels between the oppression, let's say, or certainly the attacking, the state attacking a people that Israel has been accused of, that India is now being accused of, and how Israel is working almost in tandem with India to follow this same sort of agenda?
Yes. Israel has made this template. They have been doing transnational oppression or killing the enemies of Israel outside their country, outside the country of the people who they killed for 50 years. So now this template is being used by India. So remember when Mr. Nijar was murdered in Surrey, some of the Indian YouTubers were saying, oh, now Sikhs will know what we're going to do with Israeli help, Israeli technology. And they were openly, bragging about this. So India is following what Israel has been doing for 50 years, but not at the same scale yet. So how it came into light? India's emerging transnational oppression under Modi, India historically did not operate at Israel's level internationally. This changed after 2014 when this BJP government came into power. Confirmed or credible alleged cases. 2023, Canadian PM Justin Trudeau publicly accused Indian intelligence of involvement in the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a Sikh activist and Canadian citizen. 5 alleged Indian operators were indicted in US for involvement in parallel plots. US Department of Justice unsealed charges related to an attempt to assassinate Gurpratap Singh Pannu, a US citizen. The plot involved an Indian intelligence handler, RA officer, coordinating with the criminal contractor. In Pakistan, years prior, multiple disappearances, killings of separatists or insurgent-linked individuals allegedly carried out by RA-backed units or proxies. Similarity to Israel, deniable operations. Bangladesh, Nepal, UAE, cases of forced and renditions of covert arrests of Indian dissidents or militants. Tools India is using similar to Israel. Surveillance. They bought this Pegasus spyware from Israel. Pressure on families of dissidents. Passport cancellation, visa harassments. Interpol red notices against dissidents. Covert assassination attempts as per US DOJ charges. Expansion of raw operations overseas. Who are the targets? Sikh activists advocating Khalistan, Kashmiri organizations, critics of Modi government, journalists of human rights defenders, Indian Muslims and Dalit activists abroad, diaspora organizations challenging Hindutva. The structures similarity between India and Israel is there. So what method are they using? Ideological convergences, Hindutva and Zionism, shared worldview. Both ideologies frame themselves as ancient civilizational identities under threat, surrounded by hostile minorities, Muslims and Palestine. In case of India, Muslims and other minorities, their shared security philosophy. India and Modi has adopted several Israel-style models, military occupation, lockdown methods used in Kashmir, crowd control techniques, border surveillance system. Punjab is occupied by 50 kilometers around the border by Indian security forces. Political use of counterterrorism narratives, use of Israeli spyware against dissidents. Mutual political support. Israel openly supports India's Kashmir policy. India supports Israel in global forums. In the recent Gaza operations where there was genocide, Indians have been noted to be working for Israel Defense Ministry. Both use similar narratives: terrorism, extremism, national security, anti-national. So people they want to accuse, these are the terms they will use. If anybody dissident, they call them terrorists, extremists, national security threat. Key difference is only in the scale. Israelis have been doing longer and the larger scale. India has just started. Israel often escapes Western sanctions due to strategic importance. Some of the Western countries are not willing to go against Israel, although recently European countries have been. India is now facing pushback from Canada, the US, and human rights bodies. Israel's extraterritorial killing historically targeted militants or enemies of statehood. But India's recent action seems more focused on diaspora activities, not armed group. This is the most worrying difference. Implication for Sikhs and minorities. Diaspora are not safe anywhere. They are trying to make us believe that even though we are in US, Canada, we are not safe. They use surveillance, target through propaganda, threaten indirectly by families, that threaten the families of dissidents, tabled as terrorists, extreme cases subject to assassination plots, normalization violence against minorities. They have adopted the Israeli model: dissent equal to terrorism, activism equals to extremism. Foreign citizenship does not protect critics. The global Hindutva state. India is now a global Hindutva state. India is no longer just a domestic authoritarian project. It is becoming a global authoritarian actor, exporting repression abroad, exactly as Israel has done for decades. A few days ago, the news came that India is now requiring everybody with an iPhone or similar devices to have an app installed at the time of purchase. There won't be any choice. And this app will allow government to monitor the activities, who they call, who they talk, which bank account they work on. So all the privacy is gone, freedom of speech is gone. And the people who already have those phones, when they go for update, they will be asked to install. So there's a lot of uproar in India, a lot of human rights organizations, some journalists are talking about, and people have been protesting against this method they are going to use. What they have done within the last 24 hours, the minister who's responsible for telephones has said, oh no, this will be optional. People can opt out. They can delete it. Excuse me. You know what? The apps which are installed, which come with a phone, they're very hard to delete. You can disable them, but somehow the people can still activate them from outside, people who have a control. So yes, they're trying to minimize the effect. They're trying to calm down the people, but this is not going away. So India is going to be what George Orwell said in 1984. This is the true example. So maybe this is George Orwell 2025. So there is no freedom of press, no privacy, no safety. And unfortunately, the Israel-India nexus is getting stronger and hurting the minorities. I do not know how in good conscience the Israeli government can do when they were the sufferers of similar things in the past. But the history sometimes is forgotten. History teaches lesson for people who want to learn.
So, Dr. Grohl, this growing authoritarianism that we are witnessing in India, certainly since 2014, is a huge concern, not just to, of course, people domestically in India, but of course globally. And if there is some sort of form of covert alliance with Israel, who are helping the Indian authorities push forward this authoritarian agenda through their technology and their obviously decades-long experience in doing so. When we look at the way forward for the Khalistan movement and for the people of the Sikh community, this movement, this authoritarianism and this nexus of right-wing extremists, whether it's the Zionists in Israel, it's Hindutva in India, and maybe even arguably the MAGA extremists on the right wing in the United States, how is the Khalistan movement going to be able to move forward against this? Now, if Khalistan is going to happen, and when it happens, it is only going to happen because most of those stakeholders at least gain something from it. So there has to be some form of persuasion to the likes of Israel. India, Hindutva is probably never going to accept the concept. But Israel might, the United States might. What do you think the strategy should be for the Khalistan movement to persuade at least elements of this nexus? Look, you're actually better establishing Khalistan because there are winners and you can win from this concept. What do you think, as I say, strategically, the Khalistan movement can do to push forward their whole concept?
What I was talking, it looks very dangerous, but the Western countries, like especially US, they have not considered India as a strong ally against China and in that region. In fact, they have a lost hope because India is unreliable. They have been selling narcotic precursors in US, killing US citizens. And they have been cheating, sending false fake medicines. And they are not stronger enough. In Bangladesh war, when Pakistan and Bengal was fighting, East Bengal, they were one Pakistan. Pakistan was not successful, and 90,000 soldiers surrendered to Indian generals. Just remember who the general was, the Sikh generals, General Arora, and the general who was in Golden Temple later on, and because he was insulted by Indian government. So India looked very strong to the Western countries, the rest of the world. India is a strong ally, and maybe they can join them. But look what happened the last April, May, 4 or 5 days of war, or whatever you want to call it, with Pakistan. India was defeated badly. President Trump has to rescue them. You know why? Because Sikhs in diaspora, Sikhs in Punjab, told India it was not their war. Because Sikhs did not want to participate. In 4 or 5 days, they were exhausted and begging President Trump to help them stop this war. So yes, they are a donkey with a lion's skin, but they are donkey. They are not a fighter. They are not a lion. So internally, yes, they are oppressing. The people who oppress others usually are the weaker mind because they are fearful of the other. They don't know how to treat anybody equal. So inside the India, there's a lot of problem. Their report to IMF has been rejected. They are now grade C for IMF. That's very low. So they have been telling people we are the number 4th economy. We have surpassed Japan, which is like 4 billion or so. The people who are experts in economics in India, they are talking now that in their estimate, Indian economy is only 2.5, not 4. So they are cooking up books, they are lying, and the whole world knows they are weak. Their currency has lost value 50%. So what we Sikhs need to know is strengthen ourselves, join hands with the people who may not have the same idea how to get Khalistan, but as long we are for Khalistan, we need to join hands like the old missiles before the Sikh Raj came, and join hands with the rest of the Indians who want to separate from this Hindutva ideology and be free, like Eastern states, Southern states. So I think this is going to be not easy, but what looks like India is becoming stronger, actually inside, they are very weak. Economically, they are very weak. Military-wise, they are very weak. They send one plane to Dubai Air Show. They were hoping to sell the Indian planes to other countries, and that one around it came down. Unfortunately, the poor pilot died, which is not something to celebrate for a poor life lost. So they are actually very weak economically, military-wise. Their word is no good. No, Modi sent after this war with Pakistan a delegation to a lot of countries, and nobody wanted to see them. They achieved nothing. Some of them just went, heard some Indian music and song. So their credibility in the world is lost. And we need to take advantage of that. We need to bring the truth. We need to keep talking to the people. We need to keep telling the rest of the world what India is truly about, how horrible things they are doing to the minorities. I think that's how we are going to gain upper hand or be able to fight.
As we often say on the channel, the truth will prevail, as indeed it always does. But there we must leave it, but we will be talking again with Dr. Grewal soon to continue our discussion.
Someday you and me will visit Khalistan.
We won't just visit, we'll be staying there, I'm sure, for a good extended period of time to enjoy the Khalistan.
We'll do the podcast from there.
Absolutely.
Celebrate the freedom.
That is a promise, indeed. We look forward to that very day. Dr. Grewal, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us once again.
Thank you. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.
And thank you for watching the Satluj TV podcast. We will see you next time.